this morning. If you would please do that, take yourself off of camera if you're able to do so. Thank you so very much for that. My name is Belinda Hooks, and I serve as the market president for the Mountain Plains Minority Supply Development Council. And I want to welcome you today to the Access Opportunity event featuring Denver Public Schools. Today is what, Tuesday? February 28th, the last day of February for 2023. Thank you so very much for being here this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started, and we want to know who you are that has joined us on the line before I introduce our guest speaker today. That certainly she is no stranger to the Mountain Plains Council. But before I introduce our speaker, let me go by and let's introduce real quickly, if you could do just real quickly for me, if you could say your name and the company that you're with. Why don't we do that? And the state that you're calling in from. I think that would be great. So your name, the company that you're with, and the state that you're calling in from. So I'm going to ask Cindy and Nicey to keep me honest and make sure that we go through everyone real quickly, except for our guest speaker. So let me start with Pat Broxton, or Cindy, maybe, and Nicey, if you could help me do this introductions, that would be great. Pat, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pat Broxton. My company is Broxton Design and Development, Inc., and we are located in Centennial, Colorado. Good morning.
Good morning. Johnny Craig.
My name is Johnny Craig. I'm the owner and founder of Integrity Communication Services Incorporated, and we're calling from Kansas City.
All right, Lisa Y. Jones.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Y. Jones. I'm with Financially Awakened LLC, also calling in from Kansas City.
Awesome. Welcome. Let's see. We have Joseph Medina.
Hi there, I'm Joseph Medina. I'm with HR Advantage Group, and I'm from Denver, Colorado.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome, Joseph. Lenora Payne, please.
I'm Lenora Payne with Technology Group Solutions out of Lenexa, Kansas, so close to Kansas City, Missouri.
Awesome. Welcome, Lenora. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lindsay Santos.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lindsay Santos calling from Snap IT Solutions in Overland Park, Kansas.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining us. Jay Wesley.
Jay Wesley with Lumen Technologies. I'm Global Supply Diversity Manager, and I'm here in Broomfield, Colorado. Sunny day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jay, for joining us this morning. Can I hear from Marshall? Is that Marshall Payne?
Yes, it is. I am Marshall Payne with Colmar Technology Group. We are headquartered in Des Moines, Iowa.
Awesome. Member, and both Lisa and Marshall have introduced themselves. They both serve on the MBEIC. Welcome, and thank you, Marshall, for joining us today. Melody Davidson,
please. Thank you, Belinda.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning there. Afternoon here. I'm Melody Davidson with UPS Supplier Diversity Manager.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melody. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning. Michelle Hale.
Hi, I'm Michelle Hale. Hi, I'm Michelle Hale, and I'm a senior consultant with HR Advantage Group.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's see, Jeremy Miller, did you introduce yourself? Jeremy?
Hi, how's everyone doing? Sorry, I'm driving right now, but Jeremy Miller with Corvant. We're headquartered in Denver, Colorado. Great to be talking to you.
Be safe on the road, Jeremy, and thanks so very much for joining us this morning. Great to see you and hear you. Jasmine Natividad?
It's actually Dennis Garcia with American Facility Services Group.
I'm sorry, Dennis. So sorry about that.
That's okay. Hi, Belinda. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. And just make sure one more time, Dennis, introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Dennis Garcia with American Facility Services Group, and we're out of Lakewood, Colorado.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for joining us this morning. We have Enrique Garibay. Enrique?
You're muted, Enrique.
This is Enrique Garibay, Consulware, Manhattan, Kansas. We provide sustainable tableware. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Helen Moran, are you here? Helen? Okay.
Helen,
Dan-
you're muted.
Thank you.
Oh, there he goes. Thank you. Hi, Belinda. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm here from Paragon Data Migration from Lafayette, Colorado. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Helen. And let's see, Deborah Dogba. I hope I pronounced that right. Deborah?
Yes, thank you, Belinda. Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Dogba. I'm with Business Sales Consulting firm here in Omaha, Nebraska. We provide marketing and management consulting.
All right, from Omaha. Thank you so much, Deborah. Great to see you. Thanks so very much for joining us this morning. Let's see, who would we also have? Daniel Mahon? Did I pronounce that right? Daniel?
Daniel
Yes.
McMahon. Yes, close.
Oh, I'm
close
so
enough,
sorry. I'm sorry.
Like Vince McMahon.
Oh,
Good
okay, I'll
morning,
remember that.
Belinda. Yeah, very nice to meet you. Thanks for the putting this together today. So I sit in Denver, Colorado. I'm the regional vice president at SystemSoft Technologies.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And let's see. Yes, Adele Hartway, if that's correct. Adele?
Yes, hello, Belinda. My name's Adele Hartway. We're located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I represent Bear Shell Services, Inc., a property maintenance and landscaping company.
Awesome. From Colorado Springs. Thank you so very much, Adele, for joining us this morning.
Absolutely.
Let me go back through the list. Cindy and Nicey, have I called everyone? Is there anyone that I have missed? If I have, would you please at this time introduce yourself?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm Robert Harris. Oh, sorry. Somebody
Go
else
ahead,
going.
Robert.
Okay, I'm Robert Harris with RK Recruiting here in Westminster, Colorado.
Thank you so much, Robert. And I saw someone else that I had missed.
Yes, I'm Neha Desai with SystemSoft Technologies. I'm the account manager in Denver, Colorado.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you being here. Let's see, we have John. Did I get John this morning?
Hello, good morning, Belinda. How are you? I'm John Alvarado, founder of Teach Financial Literacy, located in Grand Island, Nebraska. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. You did an incredible job last week, John,
Thank
during
you.
the corporate roundtable. Great to see you again. Let's see. And do we have, I think, Neha Desai? Neha?
Yes, I just introduced myself.
Okay, all
Thank
right.
you.
I want to make sure your hand was still up, so I want to make sure there. And see, I think we did John. All right. Have I been able to get to everyone so far today on this virtual access opportunity? Is that a yes? All right.
Hi, I'll
Okay.
chime in. Jamie, I'm with Pinnacle Assurance here in Denver, Colorado, and we're looking to build out our supplier diversity program. And so here really as a listener and learner, excited to be here.
Oh, Jamie. Now, you know, you just slipped right in there. So Jamie, or Pinnacle Assurance, for those of you who might not be aware, we had an event at Pinnacle Assurance in December of last year of 2022. And Jamie and the team, they recently came on board as our newest corporate member. So welcome, Jamie. Great to see you and have you on the call today.
Likewise, thank you.
Yes. Let's see, Cindy and Nicey, would you introduce yourselves, please? And then I'll go ahead and introduce our guest speaker today, Cindy and Nicey.
Sure. My name is Cindy Malamo. I'm the office administrator and executive assistant at Mountain Plains. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Nicey?
My name is Nicey Smullen. I am the MBE Services Administrator here at the Mountain Plains. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. And with that, I know we have other people that are joining us, but we're going to be true to the agenda. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce.
Hey, Belinda, I know you don't want to do this, but you want to introduce me, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Stan. I'm sorry, I did not see you. My apologies there. Please, Stan Center, our President CEO, if you would introduce yourself. Great to see you as always, Stan. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. We'll have a chat after this, Belinda.
Yeah, okay.
Would you, before I introduce myself, Belinda, would you be kind enough to lower your, yeah, just a bit, because all we see is the top half of your face.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Stan
you.
Senna, I'm the president and CEO of the council, and thank you, Denver Public Schools. Thank you. I see Jay at Lumen. Thank you, the other corporate members that jump in and out of this thing. We really appreciate this thing. And let's figure out now and have a good session on what Denver Public Schools has for opportunities for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dan. I want to make sure, do I now have, has everybody been introduced? I don't want to leave out not one person. Are we good? Okay, stop me if that's not the case. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. I hope you can see and hear me okay, because it is my pleasure to introduce to you our guest speaker today. Keep those screens on so Jenny can see you as she comes forward to give to you the presentation for Denver Public Schools. But let me introduce her first, please, if you allow me to do so. Jenny Malpiedi lives in Denver, Colorado. She currently works for Denver Public Schools, overseeing diverse business outreach efforts, along with developing and implementing engagement programs. For the past 10 years, Jenny has worked in the diverse business community, becoming deeply passionate about removing institutional barriers and examining the effectiveness of current inclusion efforts. Prior to her current role, Jennifer worked for the local affiliate of a national minority certification organization, the council, becoming familiar with a variety of CSR and supplier diversity programs offered, as well as how they differ from municipality to a Fortune 100 company. After reviewing existing programs and policy, she decided to focus her efforts on local diversity inclusion programming, working to ensure end users of public programs and community members are advocate for and protected. Jennifer specializes in working with small minority and women-owned businesses. She is honored to serve her community and believes strongly in sharing knowledge. Recently serving as an executive coach for the Mountain Plains Minority Supplier Development Council's Centers of Excellence program, specializing in Tier 2 contractor engagement. In addition to Jennifer's accomplishment in supplier diversity initiatives, she has been involved for over 20 years in community advocacy efforts supporting community organizations and community residents. Currently, she supports numerous organizations focused on business development, community engagement, networking, and connections, as well as public policy review and advocacy. Jennifer holds a Bachelor's of Science in Public Business from the University of Colorado, Denver, and is currently pursuing her master's. Jennifer holds a Bachelor's of Science in Music Business from the University of Colorado, Denver, and is currently pursuing her master's in Public Administration. Jennifer's studies has an emphasis on effectiveness of community collaboration, meeting dynamics, how these factors influence the trajectory of public funding allocation. Please help me welcome this morning Jennifer Malpiedi, Outreach Coordinator for Denver Public Schools. Jennifer?
Oh, Belinda, how time flies. Oh my gosh. It is crazy to think that I've been doing this work for over 20 years, and I do have quite a bit of thanks to the council for laying that foundation for me as I continue to move forward in the Denver metro area and working to support statewide organizations. So all that said, let's go ahead and dive in today, because I do want to make sure that I'm being respectful of everyone's time. I'm going to move pretty quickly. Typically, one of these sessions for us will last an hour and a half to 2 hours. So we'll try to cram a lot of information in a short period of time, and really trying to stay true to what would be valuable for you as council members, and helping you identify some of those items. I heard we have a grounds company on the line, and I have good news for you as we have some opportunities. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome to the Access Opportunity event on how to do business with DPS. I want to thank you, Stan, Belinda, Cindy, and Nicey for having us. It's always great value in these events, and so I want to just go ahead and dive in. So let's talk about DPS a little bit. We are the only K-12 school district in the state of Colorado to have a dedicated supplier diversity team. We're one of only a handful across the country to do so. Back in 2014, the district reinvigorated this engagement effort. Our program has been around since 1991, but with the addition of our director, Morgan Polani, in 2016, that's really where our program started to become more structured and solidified. Excuse me, and bear with me all because I have some sniffles today, but I'm hoping they're just allergies. So that's where the district started to really focus in on how can we advocate for our subcontractors, how do we build a successful goals program, and how do we actually put teeth into that program to hold our prime contractors accountable. And so fast forward to today, we have a fairly robust program. We're going to talk about the two different areas, which is the MWBE goals program, as well as our SBE set aside program, and how you can identify where those opportunities live and how to access them throughout the district. But I do think it is important to acknowledge that we started the day off with affirmations. And one of the things I posted for Belinda, and I'm going to repost it because I think I think we started recording right after that. This is my absolute favorite quote, and I want to say that this is true in the work that we do here at DPS. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And in truth, in 1986, CCAF, the City and County Airport Fairness Committee, they came to DPS and they said, we want to see more initiative. We want to see you doing better. And so they have come to us, and we still to this day continue to meet with our community members to talk about potential opportunities. Most recently, we had a geoservicing firm come to us and say, we really want to work with you. There are requirements within your solicitation process that we do not see with other agencies, and we feel they're unnecessary. So we were able to bring all of those different stakeholders to the table. We reviewed it from a purchasing standpoint, we reviewed it with our engineering team, and we have restructured those geophysical RFPs, and they're actually getting ready to go back out to the streets. So it's about the conversation so that we can help advocate for you, and as Belinda said, help protect you in moving forward. So I did want to talk about DPS briefly because we are a fairly large school district. We are one of the largest school districts in the state of Colorado. We are a majority led district. This saying actually, I always find this pretty funny. So within DPS, we service just under 90,000 students, and over half of those are Hispanic. I have a slide coming up on the languages spoken at DPS, but it's usually surprising for folks to realize only 36% of our students are English language learners. DPS oversees 300 million square feet of property. We have 217 schools, 207 facilities, and we are the largest employer in the city of Denver. So those facilities will shift. We have multiple programs in different areas, and then we have several administrative buildings. You may notice I'm giving you this presentation from my home office today. One of the locations that I'm at is our Acoma campus, and this is a fairly active campus. And so I wanted to make sure I could give you my full attention for the duration of our presentation. You can see here just a basic breakdown of demographics. All of this information is available on the website, and I will include that information with my follow-up to you, Belinda. One thing before I go, I did want to touch on here because it's probably no surprise to folks that the demographics are changing. So prior to COVID, we serviced over 92,000 students, and we had yet to see a decrease in enrollment probably for quite some time. Following the demographic change within the city and county of Denver itself, on top of the addition to COVID and decisions on homeschooling, we are starting to see those demographics changing. So what does that mean for you as a vendor working with DPS? That means you're going to see a lot more new development going on in the far southeast. That's where a lot of our young families are moving. So as a result of the increasing pricing here in the Denver area, we're seeing a lot of our young families choosing to have fewer children and then also choosing to move out into the suburb areas or making the choice to move to virtual learning opportunities. So what that means for us is we are repurposing facilities. So DPS does not want to get rid of any real estate if we don't have to. And in fact, we recently just purchased the Johnson & Wales, southern portion of the Johnson & Wales campus to expand our DSA program. So I say all that just to give you an idea of if you're living in the western side of Denver, you may feel like you're not seeing as much work because it's up in that far northeast area, because that's where our families are and that's where the need is currently. So I did want to touch just quickly on our graduation rate. So proud of this. We have raised our graduation rate over the past several years. The last time I gave a presentation like this to the council, we were just over 70%. Our graduation rate is now 76.5%. Excuse me, and we are seeing a similar trend for our dropout rates. They were at 4.5% and now they're at 3.8%. So even though we are seeing more complications and things that are post-COVID that our teachers and educators are working with our students to address, we're still seeing that success from our student body, which is really good to see. I did want to touch just briefly on the languages spoken here at DPS. There are opportunities around this area, whether it's marketing, translation services. All of our schools require those services, and so you work with our purchasing department to do that. And I believe one of the companies certified through the council is one that we engage with this opportunity. But that's something that is important to know working with the district is the variety of the audiences that you're going to be engaging with. All right, so working with the district, do a time check. I did want to do some engagement activities, and for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and skip through these next 3 slides, and if we have time at the end, Belinda, I'll come back to these and we can kind of get some feedback from the group, but I did want to kind of just what do you think of with working with the school district? What comes to mind when you hear an SBE set-aside program? That QR code is misplaced. And what comes to mind when you hear of a goals program? So we'll circle back to that here in a little bit if time allows. This slide here, so I'm going to jump through some analytics for you guys. So part of our department's responsibility is to track all compliance for goals programs. So when we talk about the difference between an SBE set-aside program and we talk about a goals program, what we're really looking at is where are those dollars coming from? And then what program are they allocated towards? So if you're familiar with working in the K-12 industry or working with a city, and I'm sure in other areas as well, we seek funding through bonds. So every 4 years, DPS will go out to the public and they will ask for a bond to be issued. We have been incredibly fortunate moving forward for the past several decades that the Denver voters have supported us in these initiatives. Anything that is planned through that capital project planning system, if it's over $50,000, it is going to be reviewed for a goal to be attached to it. The district currently has an aspirational goal of 30%. And you'll see here, we're going to dive into the 2 different bonds that we're currently overseeing. So you'll notice on the top of these slides, this one is reflecting our 2016 bond. And that's because we are still finishing projects that did occur in that time period. We are very proud of these numbers. You can see that over 498 million, just under $500 million were spent. $167 million went to certified MWBEs. All of this information is found on our website, so you're always welcome to jump onto our dashboard and find the most up-to-date information. This particular data set was captured in June. We did have an opening in our department for a compliance analyst, and we recently transferred our financial system. So we now have filled that position, and we are working to rebuild those reports. Excuse me, that's why you're seeing those dates for June. So you can see here, out of 656 vendors, we spent that $167 million with 177, and then we'll actually dive deeper. So when we look at architectural and engineering firms, we look at the percentage there, CMGC, so this is anything general contracting. And then we'll actually split it by ethnicity. So we're looking at total spend by ethnicity. We're looking at spend by gender. What this allows us to do is see larger picture trends. We're looking at, for the amount of people within our demographic area, is that being truly reflected within our contractual spend? And then this is the information we present to our Board of Education. So you can see here, we're trending pretty good in terms of 2016 bond for male to female utilization for our primes. And you can see here that for our spend by ethnicity and gender, heavy in the Hispanic male area. So what this allows us to do is essentially just provide this information to our Board of Education. One of the other things is that we're tracking is prime contractor versus subcontractor spend. So you heard earlier Belinda mention that part of what I've specialized in is tier 2 engagement. Tier 2 is an interesting term. I think it means different things to different people. When we're looking at tier 2 spend, what we're looking at is what our primes are spending with their vendors. And so for that, we actually trend pretty heavily into subcontractor payments. You can see they comprise roughly 73% of our spend to date for the 2016 bond. Excuse me, this trend is actually changing in the 2020 bond, and you'll see that in just a moment. When we look at this broken down even further, the interesting thing is for our professional services firms, they actually trend higher on the prime side, whereas our construction firms trend heavy on the subcontracting side. And as promised, these are our 2020 bond numbers. We're trending in at 32.4%. Now, I do want to breathe this with just a word of an additional consideration. These numbers were captured in June, and quite a bit of the construction payments are issued at the end of the summer. So these numbers are going to shift, and we anticipate to see good trends as we have established what does our compliance say? Not aggressive goals. Yeah, okay, so I would say maybe aggressive goals. We want to make sure that we are being true to marketplace demographics, to the saturation in any particular industry, but we want to make sure we're pushing our project managers forward. I want to say out of that 2016 bond, maybe 5 of our projects didn't meet their goals, and they came to us and we worked through that with them. So you do see our prime contractors leaning into that and supporting the district in these initiatives. So here, let's go ahead and move on to kind of like the fine print of how to work with DPS in terms of these engagement opportunities, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys these details. Certification agencies accepted, of course, we have the Mountain Plains Council. For our MBE firms, we have WEBEC for our WBE firms, the City and County of Denver, and then you're also going to see on there 2 additional certification firms that are listed for our small business program. One of the things for DPS that may be different from other agencies you've worked with, excuse me, is we have a geographical requirement for our certified firms. So we have an 11 county region. This is the Denver Aurora Combined Statistical Area. It's not random. It's the area that was used for them to compile the disparity study for the district. So if you are a nationally certified firm and you would like to work with the district, that is always, you know, we welcome everyone and we're always looking for qualified vendors. If you are hoping to work with the district while you self-performing for a certification requirement, we will need to see presence in that 11 county region, and I will post that into the chat box, and it's available on our website. It's fairly large. I would say if you're looking at the state of Colorado, main exclusion areas would be like Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, Pueblo, Greeley. That doesn't mean that they don't have a local presence here. So like an example, Belinda would be like Apollo Mechanical, headquartered off of the West Coast, has a local presence here and does actively engage with the district consistently. So it's just something that is of a consideration moving forward and working with the district. Oh, as promised, there it is. Okay, so Denver Aurora Combined Statistical Area. The biggest note for us when working with our prime contractors is that certification agencies do not conduct certifications on behalf of DPS, but we do accept them. And that's a big distinction for us. Our program is not large enough to host its own certification program. Yes, Belinda.
So question for you, Jenny. Thank you for this. We have folks that have joined us that are outside the state of Colorado. What is your recommendation? I think it was back on the other slide in terms of how they will be able to, the previous slide, how they would be able to do business with DPS. Can you address that?
I can, yeah. And actually, so if we move on to this slide, it's going to be that first bullet point there. So that's 2 prongs. So working with the district is, we're happy to work with any vendor, and if there's services that can be provided outside of the state, though we do have a preference to work with people internally just due to the demand of our students and how quickly our opportunities move. There's not a provision that says you have to be located within this area. The difference or the differentiation is that if you want to be able to self-perform work, if you have a goal associated to your contract and you want to come out and do that, you either need to have like a local presence, workforce, something here in that 11 county region. And I always encourage people to reach out to our office to have those conversations and to speak with us. It doesn't have to be an established satellite office, but it needs to be more than a PO box. And so those conversations can take place, and that's usually I'll have them speak with my director and our compliance analyst to determine if it's eligible for the requirements within our program. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Absolutely. And please, anyone who has questions, let me know. Okay, so this next slide, goods and services. DPS, let me take a quick step back because I dove in there pretty quickly. Denver Public Schools is a unique organization because we purchase everything. We used to say, kind of like tongue in cheek, but it's pretty true that the only other organization similar to a K-12 school district is a federal institution, but they usually make like license plates or something. So they're not purchasing everything. The difference within the district is how we purchase things. So in construction services, we've had an established disparity program, or an established goals program due to the disparity study that was conducted in 2014. Moving forward, the district is preparing to conduct another disparity study. Now, the cool and exciting part about this is that we have the board's support and commitment that in the next disparity study, excuse me, we're actually going to be reviewing all commodity codes. So if you're familiar with the ordinance change here in the City and County of Denver, their goods and services, or their goods program really only reviewed 5 commodity areas. And so they have expanded to include everything, which has allowed us to use that data to review it and to do the same thing in the district. So we're really excited to move forward in the next couple of years. Once that disparity study is concluded, and looking at establishing structured goals along those commodities. Now, DPS has been reviewing goods and services, and we've been doing internal audits. To our knowledge, the only school district in the state of Colorado that's currently doing this. And same thing, when we receive a request from a vendor saying that potentially something could be done differently, or can you open this up? Can you debundle it? Is there a way that you can provide us with opportunities? We're always looking at that, and we're always having those conversations. And so goods and services is something you're going to see some movement on here in the upcoming years. The SBE program, this is just some fine print, how we built it. So the SBE program aligns with Title 13. Really what you need to know about this particular program for DPS is it's a race gender neutral program, and it was born out of the disparity study feedback from people. And I just keeping an eye on the time here. Once the disparity study was concluded, we had a lot of public forums and input areas. And so what they said to us was, if you haven't worked with DPS as a prime, it's really hard to work with DPS as a prime. So we created a priming pipeline program, which is the SBE program. And this essentially says anything under the dollar value of $250,000 and below is set aside for vendors within this program. And we'll talk about why that threshold was set as it was. This is a self-performing program though. So if you do come into this program, we would like to see you performing these jobs and not subcontracting them out unless you're on a general contracting scope. This will be more relevant here in a moment, but I did want to talk about with the structure of the SBE program, because I was meeting with a vendor not too long ago, and it can be a little confusing. So you see HVAC services, you want to click in there because if you do pneumatic controls, it could be actually housed underneath it. And one of the things that's really nice about this program is that it functions on annual enrollment periods. So for our general contractors, architects, engineers, tradesmen, you're going to see these annually opening. And we do have a couple that posted just a few days ago. Okay, so payment procedures. I think this is out of sequence because I had a header slide. Hold on one second. Let me just take, sorry guys, bear with me for one moment. Payment procedures. Okay. So for prime contractors, the biggest thing to know at DPS is that we pay out on a net 30. You can either sign up for ACH or direct checks to be sent to you, but the common delays here are just going to be signatures, duplicates, incorrect information. So a lot of times we're running multiple projects with different vendors. So I do recommend that you include the associated PO number onto that particular invoice. Biggest thing to note here, the district will not prepay for services. And another thing that I was thinking of stepping into this presentation that is also important is please do not split your invoices. If you are looking to receive credit card payment and your invoice is over the threshold, do know that that will be flagged and that those payments will be reversed, and then you're just going to have to go through the PO process and it's just going to elongate that for you. For our subcontractors, this is really where I get more into the advocacy part. So for the primes, they're working directly with our project management team, purchasing team. If something happens with a subcontractor, if they're floating a large amount of money for a long time, they're not receiving payment, they can come to our office and we can help mediate or find potential solutions there. But I always tell my contractors, read your contract carefully. Your contract is between you and the prime, and we contract between DPS and the prime. So things to watch out for, making sure if retainage is included, know if it's the appropriate amount based on your scope of work, and know when it's going to be released. Some of these projects at DPS run for years. And I see a hand came up. Yes, Adele.
Yeah, just a quick question about that. So if you're working under a prime, can you get a prepayment from a prime if the contract's different?
It's a great question. Currently in the DPS structure, that is not something that we require of our primes. So the prompt payment process has been adopted by the city and county of Denver, and we are reviewing it for the district. I can also say that some of our primes do that proactively. I think it was GH Phipps was one that I just saw. We have a number of primes that will proactively go ahead and pay their subs. And it's interesting because we were not aware of this until we were monitoring it on the back end. And we started asking questions of, why have our subcontractors received more money than we've paid the prime? And it was because the prime was just being proactive about giving them that payment. So
right. Yeah,
the answer is not right now, but it is something we're looking to move forward and reviewing a solution. But great question.
Yeah, because when you got to flow money for 2 to 3 months, that could be hard sometimes.
Absolutely. And that's why, So from our perspective, I can't get directly engaged in that contract,
Yeah,
but I can
okay.
help guide people on how to set yourself up for success.
Cool.
And then the other thing that we offer is that mediation portion, because sometimes it is really hard. If you're floating that amount of money, but you don't want to jeopardize that potential relationship with that prime contractor, or
Yeah.
you're looking to bid on another project with them and you don't want them to choose another vendor for their
Right,
contract.
right.
That's where we can start to approach it just a little bit more, I guess, ambiguously. We'll approach it from our department, keep names out of it, just start to dig into those details
Yeah.
up and until a point that a vendor asks us for direct help. And then usually my director will sit in and mediate those conversations.
Okay.
But that's a great question, because to be completely honest with you, it's something that I think is of great value. We've seen it work very well for RTD and for the city. There were concerns over how it would be adopted by the prime contractor population. And I can tell you that in the Denver area, AGC and a couple of other general contractor advocacy organizations, they were not as enthusiastic, but they have been supportive.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Oh, so how can DPS help? So before we skip on to their main thing here for your primes, know your payment processes and make sure, because even though the DPS can say we have a net 30 payment, we request that our vendors pay. Well, we do have a 7-day requirement. So once DPS pays a prime, they have 7 business days to pay their subcontractors. But understanding that with your prime and making sure you read your contract, because at the end of the day, that's your contract, and we can help as much as we can.
Okay.
And then, okay, sure enough, how can DPS help? We just went over all this. I'm not going to dive into it too much. The biggest thing is make sure you're keeping up on your auditing reports. So each organization uses different systems. DPS uses B2G now. What it does, though, is you'll receive a monthly letter from us, essentially saying like, hey, your prime said they paid you this amount of money on this day. Did they actually do it? Yes or no? And then that way we can start to make sure that those details are in effect. And that's where the compliance aspect comes in. So if the prime contractor does not successfully complete a goal and they do not go through a good faith effort, and it's not approved by our office, they face a 6-month penalty period. And so depending on where that hits in the bidding cycle, if a prime contractor is out of compliance, they may be ineligible to bid for that summer construction work. And so it does give them that extra incentive to make sure that they're keeping up with it. Okay, so source MBEs vendors as requested. This second to last bullet, I think, is a good one to cover with this group because this is a certification organization. One of the biggest things that I ask of my vendors is make sure your industry codes are correct, because this is how I'm going to come find you. I call Belinda, I call NICE, but on the back end, what I'm doing is I'm actually researching and going through their database and pulling that information. So the biggest way that we can help you is if we can find you. All right, so let's talk about some purchasing types within the district. These are pretty common, and I don't want to spend too much time unless people have questions, because I know I'm coming to the end of my time slot here. Request for proposal. One of the big things you're going to see within the district, and that's been a trend in our 2020 bond that's changed from 2016, is CMGC and design builds. What does this mean for you guys as subcontractors? Well, it means these vendors have fairly large and aggressive compliance goals. And so I encourage you to reach out to them, tell them how you can help them reach their goals, but do keep in mind that geographical requirement for DPS. So let's see. So the CMGC, I don't want to switch my screen just yet, but Belinda, I'm going to drop a link into the chat box here once I conclude that has our 2023 project list. Now this, you're probably going to see a lot of names that are associated, but what you will see is you'll see general contractors, architectural and engineering firms that have been awarded, what their associated goals are. And then you'll have contact information. So even though a design build has been awarded, so a good example of this is the Ceylon campus. So we have 2 new builds in the 2020 bond. One is an elementary school. They're breaking ground on it this afternoon at 1:30. That's with Swinnerton, and they have a 30% goal on that project. So, they need to get creative about how they're going to fill that goal. And then our department is the one holding them accountable for meeting that compliance. Oops. But that's where the CMGC comes into place, because the other one that you're going to see is like quote requests or that kind of stuff, typically known as hard bids, because all they're looking at is pricing. But once those bids are submitted and accepted by the district, they have to give us their project team within 72 business hours. And so typically, if you're not aware of those opportunities before they've already been solicited, they already have their project teams pulled together. So moving forward in design, build, and CMGC is beneficial for the district because we're still solidifying those scopes. But then it also gives me an opportunity to give you guys contact information to say, hey, even if it doesn't work on this particular project, do you have something else coming up that I can help be on your team with? And that's where you're seeing they're still going to be listed as an RFP, a request for proposal, but typically more truly, they're going to be design, build, and CMGC. On the bottom, you'll see something here called single and sole source. I'm going to jump on the next slide, I believe, into our purchasing thresholds. This is something used in the district for emergency purchases, proprietary items, standardization. I get a lot of questions around this, and this is another area where please let me know if something stands out to you that doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's just how the district has to do it. I'll give you an example, which is our Panduit cabling. So we have to use Panduit, otherwise it nullifies our warranty. So there are certain things, like if we have certain control systems in place across the district or certain systems that are speaking with each other and working with each other, you will see those coming in as a proprietary purchase or a specialized purchase. These are few and far between, but that does occur. And I typically see this probably in our IT services and around that area.
Hey, Jennifer. This is Dennis with American Facility Services Group.
Yes, sir.
So I had a question for you. And you and I have had conversations in the past about potential RFPs and bids. But what's for myself and everyone on the call, what's the best way to get notified of a RFP or a bid? Is it through BidNet or is it through the DPS website? What do you recommend?
Let's skip ahead. That is going to be through BidNet. So everything, all official communication is distributed through Rocky Mountain e-purchasing, also known as BidNet. That QR code on the top right hand of your screen will drop you directly onto our BidNet page. But to your question, Dennis, that's exactly where you're going to look. So I know you and I have been talking about custodial augmentation contracts and that kind of stuff. And I did speak with our purchasing team. I will catch up with you offline so that I can give you a deeper update. But for the purposes of our call today, because I know Belinda told me you have a lot of other stuff to cover, so I'm trying to move through this. You can see, so I actually did this screenshot just before our call this morning. And you can see publishing dates, closing dates, who the purchasing manager is, but I know we had a grounds, we had someone on the line that did like kind of exterior work. And so you'll see here, we have our asphalt, concrete, fencing, tree trimming.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, so they all just posted and they're due back to us on March 27th. And these are all part of the SBE program. This is a great opportunity to apply and get those relationships built with the shops. So within DPS, we have the capital design projects, which is what we've heavily been discussing on this call. But there's also the maintenance side of DPS, and that's where a teacher comes into the school, the lights don't turn on. You know, someone came in, they cut the fence in the middle of the night. And in fact, that just happened this morning. We were supposed to have a purchasing agent joining us, but we had an environmental abatement thing came up and they had to go and take care of that. So to answer your question, Dennis, sign up for the BidNet push notifications. Now, you can either sign up for the push notifications or you can set yourself like a reminder. So for folks who are only looking at one particular, like they're waiting for the general contractor pre-qual, and that's really what they're keeping their eye out for. Sometimes from what I've understood, the push notifications can be a little overwhelming because you receive them from all the different agencies. So some folks, it's really just a business decision on, do you set up the notifications? Do you set yourself a reminder to look? That goes back to the industry codes that I discussed here previously, because when those notifications go onto BidNet, they are officially housed through BidNet. But if that industry code pings for your certification profile, you will receive a courtesy notification from our office saying this is a potential match for your company, and we encourage you to take a look at that. And how we do that is through certification agencies like the council. And then we're going into their database and pulling that information, and then typically I'll end up giving them a call just to make sure I didn't miss anyone, or is anyone coming to mind? Is anyone in the certification process that could be a match? So
Great.
that's—
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you ever have any questions about that, one of the other things I recommend for our folks to do is use BidNet as an archive, use it as a tool. And if you go back and you see something that just closed, or something that could have potentially been a match, that contact information is there. I encourage you to reach out to that purchasing agent and ask them, when is this going to be reissued? Do you have any other opportunities that are similar? If you find yourself in a situation where they're not responding, please copy us on that message so that we can just reply all and help to move that conversation forward. Hope I answered your question. That's a great question. So let's look at this real quick, because one on the bottom was also mowing services. Yeah. You'll see here, I wanted to use this as an example. So the one on the very top of this screen says ADA compliant website management clone. And you see that it's closing in 4 days. I got to call Maggie. I don't know what that's all about, but you can also see that it posted back in January and was canceled. And so they are reposting it. And so BitNet is a great place to get good information if you have the time to go through and dig through that archive. And Dennis, you and I have talked about this in terms of like custodial services for different locations. You can go in there and you can actually see when it was bid, and you can request the successful bidder information. So that's another thing I do want to point out before we skip off of BitNet. DPS as a state entity, we are subject to the Colorado Open Records Act. So even though you can get information from other corporate organizations, you may have to go through larger entities like Public Utilities Commission or whatever the case may be. In the state of Colorado, you just have to ask for it. There is a section on our website called Cora. Typically, if the request is fairly large, there'll be an administrative cost, as a small, like a minimal administrative cost associated to it. The reason I bring this up for this group is if you see something on there and you're like, hey, that looks like it would have been a great opportunity for me, you reach out to the purchasing agent and ask them, hey, who won? And can I see a copy of their proposal? Because I think that's really valuable. While we're here, and it's not relevant to this slide, but important to know for DPS is make sure you're requesting your debriefs. As you're going through the purchasing procedure, all of our evaluations are done by a panel of DPS stakeholders that are going to be specific to that particular RFP. When you go through that process, whether you are successful or you are not successful at that time, please do remember to request your debrief from our purchasing team, because they will be able to come to you and provide you with the comments that were given to them from all the different evaluators. Now, of course, names will be removed, but they'll be able to give you that information. And I've seen this work really well, actually with a certified firm within the council who came in, they were successful, but through that process, they were able to become far more successful because they understood what the evaluators were looking for. And that's really the value of being able to get into BitNet, pulling that information and looking at what potentially could be a match here. And that's, so the rest of the stuff is pretty much construction standards, district payment process. This I will include in my recap. This is how to register as a vendor through the district. It's important to remember when you're working with the district that just registering as a vendor doesn't make you a pre-qualified vendor. It simply puts you in our system to be eligible to be assigned a vendor ID, and that's what is necessary to be paid. So when you go through the contract process, you will then work with your DPS representative to be assigned a vendor ID. If you are in the small business program, we will assign you one automatically to expedite your conversations with people who potentially use your services. So this is a two-part process. So when you go in, you'll go in and you'll register, you'll fill out a form, you'll receive an automated email saying, hey, we've received your request. Our purchasing team will review it and they will email you back with a vendor ID number. Now for them to send you the vendor ID number, they need to receive a request from a DPS representative. So that's where you would work with your project manager. Pretty standard there. I do encourage you, so step 3, I do encourage you to list your vendor ID on all of your invoices. The reason I encourage you to do this is because sometimes there can be slight changes in the system, whether it's capitalization, a space, a period in your company name, that could cause it to not necessarily match directly. So using your vendor ID is the best way. Increased access to opportunities. So when we're looking at these opportunities for DPS, a lot of what you're going to see publicly are things $250,000 and above, because that is what goes to post to the public solicitation board. And I skipped over that slide. I can go back. It talks about our purchasing thresholds. So basically anything $10,000 and below is considered eligible for purchase cards. Okay, so when you're working with DPS, and that goes back to my comment of if you're invoicing the district and you're using a purchase card payment, please make sure that you're not splitting your invoices. So we had a vendor who did promotional mats, another certified firm. And this was one where we helped them kind of get it corrected because it wasn't by any, malintent, but what they did was they were hoping to get a credit card payment. So they split the invoice. It's not gonna, it causes a bunch of system errors and glitches and flags and that kind of stuff. So anything under $10,000 credit card payment, anything over $10,000 is going to be a purchase order. $10,000 to $250,000, this is considered a small dollar value or small dollar purchases. That's where you see the small business program living. So $250,000 and below. And anything over $250,000 goes out for public solicitation, and you'll be seeing that on BidNet. I see I have a hand.
Yes, just a quick question. On that $10,000 below, the credit card payment, does it have to be through the bank merchant purchase, or can it be through your, through invoicing, through your invoice?
No, that's fine. Yeah, it can be through direct invoicing to the vendor. It doesn't have to go through a bank merchant. It just can't. So technically, it can't be 10,000. It's 900 or $9,999.99. That's our threshold. Okay, so the reason I mentioned this, because Stan had asked at the beginning of the call, my director wanted me to make sure that I was providing as much information as possible on how you can access opportunities within the district. So we've talked about the programs. We've talked about the small business program. We've talked about the goals program. We've talked about compliance and how do you engage there. But I think the biggest thing that we talk about is if you're looking at an opportunity while you're trying to respond to it, there's less opportunity for business collaboration. So this is something you're going to want to do ahead of time. So this is really like creating those relationships so that you know what you can do to be competitive. The people talk about joint ventures a lot. This is a pretty common term. It's a great opportunity, but it is like a marriage. And you need to be very certain in stepping into these opportunities and understanding which job responsibilities fall within which company. We've seen this be very successful with larger firms who have joint ventured with local firms, and they've been able to successfully scale capacity, as well as achieving very aggressive project goals, and quite frankly, being able to participate on projects they may not have been able to do independently of each other. So there are opportunities here, but we do encourage you to take it seriously and to look at how you can build those relationships. And how you do that is things like being here today. Understanding your community advocacy organizations, showing up to the access opportunity meetings. DPS conducts quarterly events, such as our coffee chat. We recently conducted our February session, and that was focused on construction and construction services. Belinda, I will be sending you over a calendar of events. If you guys wouldn't mind including that in the recap information. Our next session will be conducted in May. That will be focusing on goods and services. So making sure you're looking at those networking opportunities, getting in front of those people, getting to know each other really is the main thing. For DPS, one date I will put on all of your calendar if you're here in the area is September 20th. So DPS conducts our annual reverse trade fair. The council is always there to support us. That is our area to get all of our vendors in front of our purchasing teams. But that is also where we're going to be releasing the project list for the next year. So at this time, that is the only publicly facing avenue to receive that information. And then we post it to our website until we receive the list from purchasing the following year. At those events, that's where you're going to want to know who's there. Take a lot of business cards. Make sure you're asking people what they do, because it may not be obvious at first. I had a vendor who came out to one of our networking events, like a year ago, pre-COVID. And they had a tracking software that to the best of my knowledge was, I was going to help connect them to certain people, but they actually were able to get in front of a project manager from facilities who said, yeah, we could actually really use that, and a week later, they were doing a demonstration for our executive director of facilities, and it was being adopted by our facilities teams a few months later. But that would not have happened if she had not have come, because we would still be trying to connect her and understanding where she could provide those services for the district. Whereas if you get in front of the subject matter expert, that's really where those valuable conversations take place. So all that to say, if you're identifying a current opportunity, if you're communicating when it's becoming public, you're probably too late to be competitive. So know who you want to work with so that when you see things coming up, you're able to respond to that accordingly. Okay, so Belinda, I don't want to take any more time. So one thing that I will touch on briefly for anyone on this call that has any questions around bonding, part of our department tasks is to identify barriers to entry. And so we have created a partnership with this SBA Surety Small Business Program. I do have a video posted onto the front of our webpage for that as well. It's a 2-hour video where Tamara Murray will walk you through what is bonding, how do you access it if you're a small business through the federal standards. They will back 80% of your bond. There's a lot of other things that they do to increase your capital and your liquidation as well. So I highly encourage you to look at that. It's truly a great program. And that's it. I ran through it super quick. That's it. I want to thank the council for having me, truly. And I hope I was able to share some information that was valuable to the folks on the call. As always, please reach out if you have any questions. I'm going to be dropping a series of links into the chat box. One of them is a link to just drop a meeting onto my calendar if you'd like to speak further. The only thing is when you put the meeting on my calendar, all I see is your name. So bear with me if I reintroduce myself during those meetings. And I think coming up to the 11 o'clock hour, so I do want to be respectful of your time frame. But Belinda, do you have anything else you'd like me to cover? Any questions for me?
Jenny, that was absolutely incredible. You had to cover a lot of information in a very short time and took questions along the way. What I want to do is open it up and see if anybody has any questions as Nicey and I prepare just to give you some closing events and announcements regarding the council. Does anybody have any additional questions, as Jenny has mentioned? And I'm going to recap some of the deliverables that you're going to get. Lisa White Jones, question, please.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate the information. I am actually in the personal finance space. So do you have opportunities to work with your staff on training related to personal finance? I love the idea of the ethnicity diversity that you guys have, and it is highlighted in statistics that minority communities are lacking in personal finance education. Are there opportunities around that area?
There are. I'm sorry. And I thank you for everyone for bearing with me as I'm fighting these sniffles. There are various opportunities, and those will typically be with Maggie, Maggie Wolf. I'll give you her contact information. But just recently, I had reached out to Belinda. This is where it becomes really important. It becomes a little bit more complex with the district because it may not necessarily say it directly in the title of the RFP, but when you go into the scope, you'll start to see it there. And that's part of my outreach component. So we recently had one and I was trying to pull it up and the name escapes me, but I know I've sent it over in my, I have it in my archive. They were doing financial literacy classes after school for our students. So there's opportunities to do that, but then also we have a department within DPS called FACE. That's the Family and Community Engagement Department, and they are working directly with the parents with those communities. So we mentioned DPS is a heavy refugee population. I mean, at our Denver Language School, they speak 85 languages there alone. And so all of those parents are then working with the district. So we really have a two-prong approach. So for you, I would probably connect you with them since it's more of those personal services to get them connected with you. But do encourage you to keep an eye on BidNet, do a search on our archive. I was just recently trying to pull it up. We just did a full ERP transfer. And so there's a large amount of training going on internally. But I think for what you're saying is very true. There's traditionally and historically been very present and noticeable that this is an area of need. Whether or not that's going to be large enough to see as an official solicitation, usually no, but let's talk. I would ask you to put some time on my calendar. Let's talk further. Let's see. I'll be able to dig into our archive and look at it more, but I see realistically working with the parents and then working with the students in those after school programming.
Okay, and follow-up question, I am in Kansas City, so I don't know if that will impact given the geographic limitations you discussed earlier, but I do want to just make sure you're aware of that on the front end.
So it does not affect your ability to work with the district. If moving forward, the disparity study assigns a goal to that particular commodity code, it would affect your ability to self-perform. That would be the only considerating factor.
Thank you.
And Jenny, thank you for that. We have another question here, Neha.
Hi, thank you for the session. It was very informative. I'm from SystemSoft Technologies, and we wanted to know what are the IT opportunities currently that DPS is soliciting, or is there any contract available?
So they are I mean, I want to say all over the place, but you'll see a lot of different ones for the district. Recently, we had one for our privileged access system. So those are all of our card readers. We had one go out for a camera refresh. So I engaged like Monica Stenger from Servitech and Terry from EmpowerCom. They do low voltage work. So we reached out to them for the camera refresh work. I also had one recently that went out for a hardware update for all of our Cisco e-routers. So you'll see a combination of whether it's customizable software requests or actual hardware requests, or if they're doing a district-wide update. So we usually see IT opportunities falling within those three buckets, but those all will go to BitNet.
How about IT consulting or staffing type of opportunities?
There is an IT staffing contract, but is currently, right now, I believe it's scheduled to go out in the next couple of years, but that's Rose Brady. So Neha, let's do this. Let's schedule some time, because I think really what is best for me to do is get a better understanding of where you would like to move forward with the district, and then I can connect you with those purchasing agents.
Sure, that would be great.
That was a great question. Thank you, Neha. Stan, you had a question or a comment?
A comment. I just wanted to let the audience know that we have numerous corporate members. Denver Public Schools has been a longtime corporate member, and they really are committed to work with minority-owned businesses. They have opened up their procurement opportunities. They're very transparent, and you guys take the time and effort to view what their opportunities are. Position yourself to do that, and then get in touch with these guys. They'll work hard to work with you. So thanks, Jenny. Thank Morgan for me. I know he's at a groundbreaking or whatever it was. So
that's for our Ceylon campus. Yep. So he wanted me to say hi. Thank you, Stan. We really appreciate that, because it is very true that we will always be open, honest, and transparent with our vendors. Time is money. It's not always easy to work with a school district, especially in certain areas, but we will do our best to help you navigate that process.
And by the way, we train Jenny well. So
that's right.
Yeah. So Jenny, on this call, we have several minority businesses that are in somewhat the same field, but maybe different field. Do you ever see the collaboration of businesses coming together where they could go after a larger opportunity at DPS? Did we lose Jenny?
It's like, what happened? There she is. Okay, so you were asking me if I ever saw businesses that were in similar fields, but potentially somewhat different, and seeing collaboration, and my screen went black, and I went, oh my gosh. And it's like, it came right back.
Yes, you are so good. Yes, do you ever see that? Is that recommended? Because I'm looking at several companies that they could do some great work together. Just a thought.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that goes back to the collaboration component. And I'll give you guys a specific and solid example, which is St. Andrews Electric Company here in the Denver area. They were able to partner with US Engineering to execute a large amount of the mechanical renovations throughout the district. And so even though they are not necessarily the same, they were complementary, and they worked together to be able to execute that scope very well. So I do see it. I think that it's something that is always a business decision. But I don't think it's unique to DPS. I think it's part of the supplier diversity conversation across the industry, really, is if it's something that you see value in, then start having those conversations early. So I guess my answer to you, Belinda, is yes, I see value there, but I also see potential areas where people can be put in predicaments that aren't necessary because maybe it wasn't the correct match, or it was just maybe rushed, or it wasn't given its due diligence prior to being put into place.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We want to thank you for your time. We just have a few closing comments because we want to make sure that I know you have to get on your way. We want to thank all of you for attending today's Access Opportunity. Can we give Jenny a round of applause, either in the chat, either reaction, or just, Jenny, this applause is for you.
It
I
was
know
great.
you worked really hard to pull all of this together, and we thank you for what you have done and what you continue to do. I'm going to have Nicey just go first because we have some folks, we have some other upcoming Access Opportunity events coming up right around the corner. We rescheduled our town hall. Nicey, let you go first, and then I'm going to close it out with some of the upcoming things that the council major events. Nicey, please.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jenny, for your presentation. Super helpful. I just wanted to remind you all of some awesome events that we have coming up in March. For example, on March 8th, we have, and in fact, every second Wednesday of every month at 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we have our monthly Growth Empowerment Lunch and Learn series. So on March 8th, we'll have Yvonne Durbin with LIST coming to speak with us about strategic investments and how to gain capital in your business. Super important call. I suggest everyone be on that. And then on the 16th of March, we have also a monthly professional development series. We have Carlos Mierles with Blue Bamboo. He does a professional development series every month that where he talks about just building your business to full capacity. There is a slew of different topics that he will go over as well. That happens a little bit later on in the evening, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That will be available on March 16th. Then, as you all enjoyed this virtual Access Opportunity event, we also host this monthly as well. In March, we will have Gina Monger from H&R Block presenting on how to do business with H&R Block, what that means, the process, and successful tips on how to be a part of that corporation. Finally, we have, as Belinda stated, we had rescheduled our hybrid town hall. So we have that scheduled now for March 29th. That is going to be hosted by one of our awesome corporate members, J.E. Dunn. So that's here in Colorado at 2000 South Colorado Boulevard. That will be from 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. With that awesome happy hour included. So if you are in the Denver area, definitely come in and drop by and see us for that town hall. We will have lots of information on what the council has worked on previously, what we're working on in the future, and more ways that we can directly connect you with corporate members. So that's going to be an awesome informational session. And all of these events and all of our events are located on our calendar of events on our website, npmsdc.org. Thank you so much. Back to you, Belinda.
Wow, Nicey, that was so incredible. And that's just March. Listen, Melody, are you still here from UPS, Melody?
Yes, I'm here.
So Melody, what's going to be happening in April? Do you want to share?
Sure. So I will be hosting an Access Opportunity on behalf of UPS in April. So as you know, we have opportunities all over the country. So I'm going to really try to see what I can do to focus on the Mountain Plains area and all the states that's included in that specifically, but I will be sharing opportunities that we have coming up for 2023, and then also tips and information, kind of like what Jeannie shared as well, on how best to do business with UPS and what you can expect, and tips on how to do a good, be competitive in your RFP. So yeah,
Awesome.
look forward to that.
Right. And Melody, this is, so for everyone, this is a virtual event, the same way the town hall will be a hybrid event. So you will be able to join us as well. And then we have a live event in April that you should know about, and that's with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. That's going to be on. Cindy, can you correct me on the dates for April for NREL and for UPS real quick?
Yes, so NREL will be a hybrid access opportunity event. And that will be Monday, April 17th. And then UPS will be Tuesday, April 25th. And that will be virtual for UPS.
So we've got a lot going on. We're going to be having a virtual 2-day connection zone. We also have our major events that's going to be coming up. So as Nicey mentioned, check the council's calendar often because we're constantly adding more opportunities to engage, to provide access to our corporate members. And so with that, on behalf, we've ran a few minutes over, but on behalf of the Mountain Plains Minority Supplier Development Council, we want to thank you for your time. Thank you for Cindy, Nicey, and Jenny for preparing for today. We appreciate you so much, and be safe, continued success in your business, and we'll see you at the next council event. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful and safe day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thank you for having us.
Have a nice
Bye-bye.
day.